Hey everybody, I'm Tim, and if you're just diving into cigars, here's everything you need to know. You're watching Cigars Daily. Get more out of this in all our videos when you watch them on Cigars Daily Plus. Let me take you guys right in. Premium cigars are an amazing part of the luxury lifestyle. They come with all the class and sophistication of stuff like whiskey or scotch, bourbon or wine. The only difference is, with cigars, you'll never wake up naked in your neighbor's front yard, cuddling a lawn gnome, wondering what you did last night. It's a really amazing way to enjoy just the flavor, and what a lot of people come to cigars for is the incredible community that it creates. Like when you go to a bar to have a really good glass of scotch with some friends, you can sit down, enjoy a premium cigar, and have something in common with people of just about every walk of life. It's one of the things I love about cigars. There's a lot of luxury stuff out there that, quite frankly, is just out of reach for most people because it's priced too high or whatever. There is a premium cigar, though, for every type of person, every type of means. If you're a plumber, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, a ditch digger, it doesn't matter what you do, there's a premium cigar for you. And so today I want to take all of you who are just getting into this and falling in love with the flavor and the community. I want to take you guys through some of the important things to know about this. You know, I started smoking cigars 20 years ago, and I remember how nerve-wracking it was the first time I went into a cigar shop and I didn't know anything about it. There were so many options and so many different types of cigars, it was hard to know where to begin. And if you don't end up with somebody who's really helpful in the cigar shop to walk you through the humidor, it can be kind of off-putting. So my idea today is to give you some of the best of kicking off your own cigar collection and learning how to enjoy these things. And so I want to take you guys through this, but I'll tell you up front, drop a comment down below. If you've been into cigars for a while, what's the one thing you wish you could go back and tell yourself after or before your very first cigar? The one thing that you wish you could go back and just have known from the beginning that might have spared you some embarrassment or even helped you get better mileage out of the dollars you spend on cigars. And so I got a few recommendations, but if you're just getting in, check the comments, because the guys and gals in the Cigars Daily Nation are wicked smart and they've got tons of experience. And so with no further ado, let's jump right in. You know, like I said, I've been smoking cigars for 20 years, and 8 of those years have been in the cigar industry. It's one of the coolest privileges of my lifetime, and a video like this is something I love making because there wasn't a lot of stuff like this when I first got into cigars. The only way to learn about cigars would be to buy a book off Amazon, because this is back when Amazon really only sold books. At the same time, today there's so much information available that even at times you can find information that's not really that helpful. In fact, some of the least helpful people in the cigar world are people we refer to as the cigar snobs. They're ones that want to look down on you for the way that you enjoy a cigar, or tell you that your selection's wrong or that you're doing it wrong, and they've got way too many opinions. And so my hope in this video is to steer you away from that stuff, and also probably collect some of those cigar snobs in the comments who are going to correct everything I say. And so that leads me into my first huge tip on premium cigars. As you get into this, is you'll quickly learn what out there is good advice and what out there is just white noise. But at the end of the day, the most important thing for you to remember about this is premium cigars exist for your enjoyment, however you choose to enjoy them, and you don't exist for their enjoyment. So when somebody comes up to you in a cigar lounge and tells you you have piss poor taste because you're not smoking a cigar that's expensive enough, which, by the way, is a criticism I have never understood, or they tell you that you're not smoking it right or you're keeping your cigars wrong, you don't have to listen to all that stuff. Truly, this is a journey, and it's about figuring out exactly what works for you. There's no magic humidity other than the humidity that makes it perfect for you. There's no magic way to light a cigar other than the way that you enjoy it the most. Now, there are just a few things that will help you get, generally speaking, a better experience out of your collection and the cigars you pick up. Those are the things that I really want to share with you today. Now, in this video, I'm going to bullet point a few important things to know about cigars, but I'll also tell you, I've made videos on just about every topic that we're going to bring up today, and so you can find further information about this stuff, and I'll include some links below this thing. But first thing to talk about is cigar selection. Like if you're watching this video and you've just gotten into cigars, it's most likely that you smoked a cigar with a friend, maybe sometime over the holidays, and you were like, wow, this is like really my thing. There's an acquired taste here I can really sink my teeth into. But that really just lets you in the gate. Once you get in and you walk into your first retail humidor, you'll be blown away, like so many people are, by the amount of different types of cigars that there are. And there are so many. The way that cigar seeds are grown in different countries, and then they're crossbred and all kinds of stuff, we've got thousands of different types of seeds to grow these things today. And the leaves produce these incredibly different flavor profiles. There are tens of thousands of cigars on the market, and all of them sort of have their own unique look at a different type of premium cigar flavor. So as you look around the humidor, feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all of the stuff there is to select, there are basically three things that will help you identify what cigar should be like your next choice. The first one is the wrapper leaf. You see, all cigars are made of three parts. There's a leaf on the outside called the wrapper leaf. Under that, there's a leaf called a binder leaf that sort of holds things, it binds the leaves together. And then in the center, running lengthwise, there are filler leaves that are made out of a different couple, 2-3 types of leaves that come off a tobacco plant. When we talk about cigars in the premium industry here, we talk about the wrapper leaf. In fact, we categorize cigars by the wrapper leaf. Typically, when people are getting into cigars, one wrapper leaf that's recommended the most is what we get here on the La Validación from Aganorsa leaf. This is a Connecticut cigar, which basically means it has a very light colored wrapper. These are often grown in the shade, so you'll hear them referred to as a Connecticut shade leaf, and it typically, in a very general sense, creates a more mild cigar that's easier for people who are just starting to develop their palates. But as you look into the world of premium cigar wrapper leaves, oh my gosh, we have got so much diversity today. There are leaves called Sumatra leaves that use like a seed from Sumatra, from Indonesia. They've got Cameroon wrapper leaves that come from Africa. There's even bolder, stronger types of leaves that typically create a very powerful premium cigar, like a Mexican San Andreas or a Connecticut broadleaf. And there are tons more like that. Like back in the day, truthfully, it used to be that you had like a natural cigar or a Maduro cigar, and you smoked one or the other. They all also call them Colorado and Claro and Double Claro. They had other names for them, but today the consumer market has changed. We've all started to sort of geek out on stuff, and as consumers do more research on what they're buying before they buy it, cigars have become a lot more specialized than they were. And that's where you get all of these different types of wrappers. If you're just kicking off your cigar smoking experience, you'll want to pay attention to a few specific type of wrappers. Connecticut shade is most likely one of them, but other premium wrappers that give you sort of a mild or mild to medium flavor profile would be the Sumatra and Cameroon wrapper leaves. These are ones I typically recommend to start off with because they give you tons of diversity and they give you a lot of different flavor with just a few different types of blends. The other thing I'll tell you is don't be afraid to try a bunch of different things. I meet more and more people these days that kick off their cigar smoking experience with something with some real power, like a Maduro. And that's typically a darker, bolder, stronger cigar, but it's something that you should try and find out for yourself because once again, there's no one size fits all with this. There's just what fits your palate. And after you consider what the wrapper leaf has to offer you, another way to sort of narrow down what's the next thing you should try is by brand. You see, with a lot of industries, brand names are just names, right? Like products are made exactly the same way by pretty much everybody. What you get in the different brands is like different options. But with cigars, it's very different. A brand name typically represents like a family of cigar makers. In many cases, these go back by generations. And these families all do this process of hand making premium cigars a little bit differently than each other. Some of them ferment their tobacco for longer, some of them ferment it at different temperatures, some of them have different processes for rolling and pressing the cigars and getting the perfect shape, and the goal at the end of the day for all cigar makers is the same. Create a cigar with the best construction and flavor that they possibly can. It's just a different road to get there. For that reason, you're going to find that different brands offer you different things. It's not uncommon to see like a certain part of a flavor profile run through an entire brand. Here's a great example. Aganorsa leaf here. Aganorsa leaf uses a Criollo and Corojo seeds to grow a lot of their leaf, and it produces this really nice, with a little bit of spice in the back flavor and a little bit of salt that touches the top of the tongue. That's a pretty typical thing for Aganorsa leaf. At the same time, you'll find other brands like My Father Cigars or AJ Fernandez Cigars have a different quality of flavor that runs through their line. All the different cigars still have their own unique flavor profile, but it sort of has that Aganorsa leaf essence to the flavor. And if you find that you like that, you know that you've landed on a brand where you want to work on expanding your palate and trying something different. So after you've identified a wrapper leaf that you enjoy, look for that wrapper leaf maybe in a couple of brands, or start spreading out within one brand that's just absolutely hit the nail on the head for you. That's a great way to find the next blend you're going to absolutely fall in love with. And then, of course, there's a general truism about life that I think we all recognize, and that's this. Size matters, and it definitely matters with cigars. As you look at this Aganorsa leaf Connecticut is a Toro size. That means it's about 6 inches long and typically comes in around a 50 ring gauge. Although, this is one of the crazy things about cigars. There's no standardization in this industry. So a Toro might be 6 inches, it might be 6.5 inches, it might be 5 7/8 inches, but it's around 6 inches. And then a 50 ring, 52, 54, some of them are a little fatter, some of them are a little thinner. But here's what you got to know about sizes. The different sizes are going to really determine to a certain degree the flavor profile, because with some brands and some blends, the sizes have a little bit of variation in taste. A shorter cigar might give a little bit more pepper than one that's a little longer or even a little fatter. Also, the size of the cigar you pick out is going to really determine how long you're smoking. A shorter cigar, which we typically call a Robusto, is about a 5-inch cigar, and that's going to last you 45 minutes to an hour. While a 6-inch cigar like a Toro is going to go around an hour and a half. A longer cigar like a Churchill, that's about 7 inches long, typically, is going to be about a 2-hour cigar. You can always kind of know when you're going to sit down to smoke what size you should be picking out based on how much time you really want to enjoy. There are really short cigars that last you 20 to 30 minutes, all the way up to cigars that can take 5 ridiculous hours to smoke. And at the end of the day, it's really about how long you want to smoke and not what's right or wrong according to the cigar snobs. And of course, as you make your way through the selection of cigars out there to find stuff that you don't like and stuff that you absolutely love, there are 2 things I would tell you to keep in mind. Number 1, and this is something I hear people say a lot that's absolutely not the case. They say that the darker the wrapper leaf on the cigar, the stronger it's going to be, and adversely, the lighter in color the wrapper leaf, like this very light colored Connecticut, the milder the cigar is going to be. And here's what I'll tell you about that. In a general sense, that's kind of true, but only kind of. There are definitely very dark cigars out there that are mild, and very light colored cigars out there that have some real strength to them. So don't apply this rule to every cigar that you see. Reading and watching reviews is a great way to get a sense of what a cigar has to offer. And as you smoke cigars, there is a strong idea in the cigar world that giving a blend a second chance is a good idea, especially if you're growing your palate and trying new stuff. This is something that you see a lot in the world of bourbon and whiskey. A lot of guys will get in and start with very sweet bourbons. And over time, sometimes a period of years or even a decade or more, their flavor preferences will grow and they'll look for something a little stouter, maybe even a little drier, a little peatier for some scotches. But people's flavor preferences change over time, is my main point. And the same is true with cigars. If you get in liking mild Connecticut's, you may find that over time you want something with a little bit more strength. So if you smoke a cigar and it's not something that you like at all, maybe put an earmark on it and say, I'll come back and revisit this in 6 months. You'll be amazed at how much your preferences change and how much more you find you can enjoy cigars. I like to tell people this. When I first got into cigars, I used a cigar journal, sort of like the Cigars Daily Review journal here. Sorry, I'm banging stuff all over the table. This is a journal I put out to help people put together their palate, grow their palate, explore different flavor notes, and even rate cigars. I had a journal when I very first got into the cigar world where I was reviewing sticks, and I was giving cigars 99 and 100 ratings that I wouldn't even smoke today. My palate has changed that much. So when you first get into cigars and you find something you don't like, don't say never again. I hear people saying that a lot. Just give it a little bit of time and revisit the thing. I had the same experience with cane cigars when I first got into the industry. I smoked one that made me sick to my stomach. And now 8 years later, I know that I should eat something before I smoke a strong cigar like a cane. At the same time, I enjoy the things a hell of a lot more than I used to. Now, picking out the next cigar you're gonna smoke is work all in its own. And by the way, for doing this, a lot of people like to try variety samplers, and there are plenty of them out there you can find that have like different cigars of different strengths. And for some people, that's like just get 5 cigars and try them and see what you think. And I, of course, recommend that too. But once you've got a cigar in your hand that you're like, yeah, this is the next one I'm gonna try, then getting the most out of that cigar truly is about how well you get going. I love how simple cigars are, and getting going is really simple, but it's also something that's kind of easy to screw up, and that can ruin the whole experience. Unlike pipes and a lot of other forms of luxury, I guess you'd call them vices, this cigar is a pretty simple thing. What you need to enjoy it is a good cut and a good light. If you've got that, you can't go too wrong. And coincidentally, this is another part of the luxury lifestyle that I love about premium cigars, because cutting and lighting and getting a cutter and lighter is actually simpler than it sounds. You can find cutters from very affordable. This is the big boy cutter. It's a cutter that I guess is geared toward beginners because it's what we call a perfect cutter. Unlike a lot of other ones that are a double blade guillotine like this one, they have blades on the top and bottom that snip the tip off the cigar. This one also has a backstop on it that keeps you from cutting the cigar too deep. Now, that's a really big one because this is what I see more people doing as a mistake getting into cigars than absolutely anything. I think people get this started and they're like, yeah, like in order to get a good draw, I need a good cut. And to them, that equates to a deep cut. But the entire cigar is truly just rolled up. They roll these things up and then they adhere them at the cap or the top of the cigar here with a little bit of vegetable paste. So if you cut too deep on the cap, the entire thing is going to unravel. So here's your safest bet as you go to cut a cigar. You want to cut as a little off as you can to create draw. Typically, the top layer of tobacco that's just draped over the top of it is enough to give you a perfect draw. And these perfect cutters, even with that backstop, again, they just help you cut a little bit off and it gives you all the draw that you need while the cigar's not going to fall apart. Now, with a very affordable cutter like this, the downside is they don't use the most expensive, like fancy steels that keep the blade sharp and everything like that. So you can spend a little bit more on a cutter, and like this is the Calibri S cut right here. The S cut uses nicer metal in the blades that's going to give you that perfectly straight, very sharp cut on hundreds of cigars. And Calibri has become a brand that I've gone to and learned to trust for long-lasting accessories. This one right here doesn't have the backstop on it like the other one does, so you kind of got to know what you're doing a little bit more. But again, I see a lot of people who will set one of these down on the table, put the cigar in it, and snip it to get going. A cutter like this, they come in around $50. But again, what you're going to pay for, like additionally to a cheap cutter, you're going to get back in quality, which is how it really should work. Now, once you've got a good cut, you get the best draw you can get on your cigar, you're going to want to get a good, even light. And if you watch my reviews on this channel, you'll see how I light. I usually toast the foot and get it nice and black, and then I get an even light on it, and I like to blow on the cherry afterwards just to make sure that it's evenly lit all the way around. But how you light your cigars or what you use to do it, that's really up to you. There are lighters like this is the Glock torch right here. I like this thing because it's got 3 torch jets in a row that you can use sort of like a paintbrush to paint your cigar. It also has the added benefit of having a nice fine edge on that lighter area where you can touch up a burn. This is another thing about cigars I think is really important. A good tasting cigar is always going to have a straight burn all the way around, just like this Aganorsa does right now. At the same time, if that burn starts to get crooked or it's only burning down one side, which is called a canoe, that flavor will suffer very quickly. A cigar gets a good bulk of its flavor from that wrapper leaf on the outside. So it is in your best interest to keep that burn going straight. And so if it starts to go off a little bit, you can literally use a good lighter like the Glock here to just touch up the burn around the edges and then keep going straight again. You'll find that if a cigar starts to lose its flavor from a bad burn, touching it up and getting that burn straight again will cause the flavor to come rushing back like right away. But even with that, this lighter right here, I think they come in at or just under like $20 for the lighter. That's a really good way to go. You can also get more expensive torches that give you different features. This is Dissam's torch lighter. Looks a little bit different than anything you've seen in torches before, but I like this one because it's got two jets that actually point toward each other a little bit, and the tip of the flame comes to a single point. This makes this really convenient for touch-ups, and it's a powerful jet, which makes it easy to use for lighting. Now, when it comes to this whole issue of using a torch to light a cigar, I have to help you combat some of the insane cigar snobs out there. There are guys and gals who will tell you that you can only use a match to light a cigar. A true aficionado only uses matches. I don't know why it sounds like David Attenborough when I do that, but that's not the case at all. In fact, I've spent so much time in the cigar world now. It's been 8 years, like maybe not in a ton of time to you, but for me, this has been an incredible journey because I've got to spend so much time meeting and talking with cigar makers of every level, people who I respect tremendously. And one thing I can tell you about this industry and the professionals in it and the people who make the cigars you enjoy, they almost unanimously use torch lighters like this one. All of them have got their own torch lighter that they like for a particular reason. So as you're looking at torches, find one that you really like, but you probably want to use a torch. I mean, they have the added benefit of they work when it's windy, which matches don't, and that you like the directional heat that comes off a torch is much easier to direct and get an even burn on a cigar and everything like that. They've got all kinds of features that matches just don't. Then there are a few things after you get your cut and your light that will help you enjoy your cigars a little bit more, and I wanted to share those with you. The first thing is a question that comes up a lot here, and that is, how far down do you smoke this thing before you should be done with it? And truly, the answer to that question should be completely up to you. There's no right or wrong answer. If you want to smoke an inch and put it down, then do. That's a pretty expensive way to smoke cigars. But if you want to smoke the thing all the way down to the nubby nub where it burns your fingertips because it's a blend you love so much, you could do that too. I find that I typically smoke into the final third, and when I put a cigar in the ashtray, it's got maybe an inch or an inch and a half left on the thing, but I'm also moving on to the next cigar because that's what I do all day. When you are done with your cigar, the best way to put it out is to set it down in the ashtray and do what we call letting it die with dignity. You're gonna put the cigar out and it won't create a huge plume of smoke that's left behind after you walk out of the lounge and everybody's still smoking there. That plume of smoke comes when you stamp the thing out in the ashtray, and that's something that almost nobody does because, again, it's disrespectful to the people who are still gonna be there. And then there's one more thing about getting the most enjoyment out of this, and that is learning how to retrohale. Now, this one is not like a cigar snobby thing that gets recommended. It's something that I recommend because it truly is empirically one of the best ways to get flavor out of your cigar. You have a lot of taste receptors in your mouth, but also a lot in your nose, in your nostrils. And that's part of the reason that if you plug your nose, most people can't tell the difference between an apple and an onion. A lot of what we taste comes through our sense of smell. Retrohaling is the practice of pushing a little bit of smoke through the nostrils to just get that extra amount of flavor. You see, cigar makers go to extraordinary lengths to blend cigars with wildly complex flavor profiles that you can only really get if you learn a little bit about this art of retrohaling. Now, if you're trying to figure out how to do this and do it without inhaling, which you shouldn't be doing with cigars, you shouldn't inhale them, you don't want that smoke in your lungs, it's not a good thing. But as you go to learn how to retrohale, this is something a lot of people have trouble with, because the idea of there's nothing else in the world that we chew on and then push through our nostrils other than occasionally milk when we're laughing at a silly video online or something like that. This idea is very simple, and the way to do it is very easy. You just simply chew the smoke in your mouth and you'll find that a little bit escapes through the nostrils, and suddenly that flavor profile will come to life. It's such a cool thing to add if you've already tried some cigars and like them. Try retrohaling and you'll find a whole new layer of complexity to get out of just about every cigar you smoke. Now, of course, there are about 1,000,001 different conversations to have about cigars and things to learn about them, especially as you dive into this. And that's really the reason the Cigars Daily channel exists. We've got over 1,200 videos on premium cigars, and we can answer just about any question you can ask about these things. And I'll continue making videos every week to clarify. So if you have a question, drop it down below because I want to get to as many of them as I can. And of course, check the comments down below for some good advice from people who wish they had known these things when they first got started. And all of you seasoned smokers, put your advice down there too. And I want to encourage you to check this video out on Cigars Daily Plus. That really is where I'm putting extra content in, stuff that you can't put in or say on YouTube, and coupon codes and all the stuff that will make your cigar smoking journey that much more enjoyable. And I want to thank you so much again for hanging out with me here. Check this video out on Cigars Daily Plus. This is Tim signing off for Cigars Daily, and I will see you in the comments.